Brothers and sisters, there's a gentle rain falling outside my open window with a week of floods in the forecast for central Oklahoma. But as dark and wet as it's going to be, it'll be nothing like the toxic rain that is at this point falling in poor old Job's life. To judge from the way God treats his chosen people, and we have his very own divinely inspired word on that, I'm kind of glad I'm not on the list of the favored. To all you Christians who want to tout the tender mercies of the Almighty, I'd gently remind you that the book of Job is a thing. If that thing were a piece of music, I'd identify today's lesson as Cycle 2, Chapter 2, the former referring to a second round of speeches, and the latter the second of the cycle's 3 pairs of speeches. Both the first and second rounds began with Eliphaz the Temanite, and today it's Bildad's second turn. He's even more cryptic now than he was the first time, and his insults are really nasty. Just listen to this cruel bastard charge Job with wickedness and atheism and threaten him with the most god-awful consequences. Then answered Bildad the Shuhite and said, How long will it be ere ye make an end of words? Mark, and afterwards we will speak. Wherefore are we counted as beasts, and reputed vile in your sight? He teareth himself in his anger. Shall the earth be forsaken for thee? And shall the rock be removed out of his place? Yea, the light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out with him. The steps of his strength shall be straitened, and his own counsel shall cast him down. For he is cast into a net by his own feet, and he walketh upon a snare. The gin shall take him by the heel, and the robber shall prevail against him. The snare is laid up for him in the ground, and a trap for him in the way. Terrors shall make him afraid on every side, and shall drive him to his feet. His strength shall be hunger-bitten, and destruction shall be ready at his side. It shall devour the strength of his skin. Even the firstborn of death shall devour his strength. His confidence shall be rooted out of his tabernacle, and it shall bring him to the king of terrors. It shall dwell in his tabernacle, because it is none of his. Brimstone shall be scattered upon his habitation. His roots shall be dried up beneath, and above shall his branch be cut off. His remembrance shall perish from the earth, and he shall have no name in the street. He shall be driven from light into darkness, and chased out of the world. He shall neither have son nor nephew among his people, nor any remaining in his dwellings. They that come after him shall be astonished at his day, as they that went before were affrighted. Surely such are the dwellings of the wicked, and this is the place of him that knoweth not God. My God, what a heartless prick. Before I continue with Job's reply, I want to revisit Satan's visits to the heavenlies for the sake of reacquainting ourselves with an important detail of the wager. In chapter 1 we read, And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. And there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house, etc., and on with a description of brutal, gruesome calamities that impoverished poor Job and killed his sons and daughters. It's clear from the way this story's set up that it's Satan who's doing this vile shit to poor old Job, not God. This is corroborated on Satan's second appearance before God. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. It surely is not controversial then, is it, that it's Satan who is doing the afflicting? Am I right? Keep that in mind as we listen to Job's reply. Then Job answered and said, How long will ye vex my soul, and break me in pieces with words? These 10 times have ye reproached me. Ye are not ashamed that ye make yourselves strange to me. And be it indeed that I have erred, mine error remaineth with myself. If indeed ye will magnify yourselves against me, and plead against me my reproach, know now that God hath overthrown me, and hath compassed me with his net. Behold, I cry out of wrong, but I am not heard. I cry aloud, but there is no judgment. He hath fenced up my way that I cannot pass, and he hath set darkness in my paths. He hath stripped me of my glory, and hath taken the crown from my head. He hath destroyed me on every side, and I am gone, and mine hope hath he removed like a tree. He hath also kindled his wrath against me, and he counteth me unto him as one of his enemies. His troops come together and raise up their way against me, and encamp round about my tabernacle. Isn't it clear here that Job thinks it's God who's persecuting him? He never once thinks to blame Satan, who, according to the first 2 chapters of this dreadful book, is clearly the vandal. Although I do have to wonder what fundamentalists who imagine every word of the Bible to be literally true, with the creationists among them having a special attachment to this ancient horror on account of the dinosaurs in the later chapters, make of the fact that Job thinks it's God who's kicking the shit out of him. Just who is the villain here? That's certainly not the first time this question has come to mind. The snake in the garden, the drowning of the world, the judgmental fire of God falling from the heavens on Sodom and Gomorrah, the hardening of Pharaoh's heart. The more you think about it, the worse the Bible gets. He hath put my brethren far from me, and mine acquaintance are verily estranged from me. My kinfolk have failed, and my familiar friends have forgotten me. They that dwell in mine house and my maids count me as a stranger. I am an alien in their sight. I called my servant, and he gave me no answer. I entreated him with my mouth. My breath is strange to my wife, although I entreated for the children's sake of mine own body. Yea, young children despised me. I arose, and they spake against me. All my inward friends abhorred me, and they whom I loved are turned against me. My bone cleaveth to my skin and to my flesh, and I am escaped with the skin of my teeth. Just a quick aside, there's that verb again that I talked about a little last week. In this context, having the opposite meaning as the cleaving asunder of Job's bones mentioned in his reply to Eliphaz. Have pity upon me, O ye my friends, for the hand of God hath touched me. Why do ye persecute me as God, and are not satisfied with my flesh? Again, it's obvious that Job thinks it's God who's oppressing him, and implores his friends not to be nasty, judgmental, persecutorial pricks like the Almighty. I wonder why God doesn't bother to clear this up for poor Job. How's he supposed to work out the finer points of Bronze Age theology when he's scraping his scabs with a fucking potsherd? Of course, I suppose the terms of the bet require God's silence, because after all, the devil is trying to get Job to curse the Lord, and Job's about to that point. This next bit got quoted quite a lot back in the good old days, although those who quoted it obviously had no idea what it actually means. It just sounds pretty in the King James Version. Oh, that my words were written. Oh, that they were printed in a book, that they were graven with an iron pen and lead in the rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. And though after my skin worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh shall I see God, whom I shall see for myself. And mine eyes shall behold, and not another, though my reins be consumed within me. Job has a punchline to deliver, but I want to say a few words about those verses I just read. First, Job's words clearly have been written in a book, and here we are 3,000 years later reading it together. Moreover, despite that Christian hymn that I sang as a child, and I'll bet a lot of you sang as well, a kind of high church hymn called I Know That My Redeemer Liveth, which of course is a paean to the resurrection. These verses have nothing to do either with the New Testament Jesus nor the resurrection from the dead. That latter notion simply did not exist in Judaism at the time this book was written. That idea was at that time at least half a millennium in the future. So there's no need to imagine this to be some kind of prophecy. Job is talking about the tradition of redeeming something that's in hock, according to various Levitical rules, of course, which are clearly set forth earlier in the sacred scriptures. And he's trying to pump up his courage with a little hyperbole, because this is, after all, poetry delivered in paired couplets. Now for the punchline. But ye should say, why persecute we him, seeing the root of the matter is found in me? Be ye afraid of the sword, for wrath bringeth the punishments of the sword, that ye may know there is a judgment. Those last two verses are simply unclear in their meaning, but what does come through the incoherent tangle has the tone of a threat. Job is damn close to losing his temper with these three clowns and with the Lord God Almighty, and who wouldn't be? My dear Judeo-Christian friends, I'm not seeing a lot of what would pass in sane circles for wisdom in this awful book, mostly just a lot of long-winded speechifying with an increasingly acrimonious flavor. But I plan to keep plowing through it, because I know that once we machete our way through this dense theological undergrowth, we'll be rewarded with dinosaurs. With biblical names, no less. Stay tuned and exercise that patience that St. Paul touts as a virtue much to be wished for as we await the return of Jesus.